Welcome to the Dream Achievers podcast, where we focus on business owners and purpose-driven leaders in our local communities. We meet people every day where we shop, eat, and do life, and want to bring their stories to you each and every Wednesday. Now, let's get to this week's guest.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Dream Achievers. This is Andy. I'm joined today with Kandee Phillips. You guys have probably seen a lot of her work, maybe haven't met the artist. So thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Now, we're down in St. Paul. We're inside the coffee station where some of your work is actually displayed outside.
Yeah.
Always cool whenever, when you get to come and you get to support the people that supported you.
Yeah, for sure. Like the coffee station has been one of my favorite third spaces since they kind of came in, and my favorite hangout spot, caffeine spot, and I was hanging out here with my sisters. I guess it's been a couple of years ago now, and typically I carry like a business card in my phone case, but I'm never like bold enough to present this business card. So, after hanging out here for several months, I had seen Andrea here, and I had like kind of put together that she was the mastermind behind this, and I was like, okay, you love it here, shoot your shot. And I went up to the desk, and I was like, if you ever need any like murals or you need any art in here, I would be honored to be able to, put something up in here. And I was thinking, just like some framed like postcard type things, like kind of like what's behind you. And a few months later, Andrea reached out to me and asked if I would paint a mural, potentially 2, on her building. And I was just like, oh my God, yeah, I would love to. That would be awesome. So that was kind of my start here in town, and because of her, Steve at the hardware store down the street found me, and I did the Piggly Wiggly mural down there, and then that kind of like led into some contact with the town of St. Paul, which then the riverbed mural in the alleyway kind of came from that. So being able to like share this large amount of art with the community that I've grown up in has just kind of like grown from these personal relationships, and it's really kind of like cool to experience.
So yeah, I mean, you've been plugged into the community for a long time, but when was it that you got started with art? I know it started at a younger age, that kind of the interest there. What was that spark?
Yeah, I remember first getting into art when I was 3 years old, and it started out with me just like using Crayola markers and drawing with my grandfather at like his countertop in his house when I was younger. And my grandpa, he was a really awesome artist. He did a lot of like landscape work, and he doodled a lot and kind of drew. So he was kind of like my inspiration and like my first teacher getting into that. And he taught me, and we drew and painted together all the way up through probably high school. And then that's when I started receiving like my first like formal art education, because when I was in elementary school, they cut our art program. So none of the kids in our elementary school had art for like the first 7 years. So once I could take art in high school, I was like dropping dual enrollment classes and like completely rearranging my schedule my last couple years of high school so that I could still fit art into my schedule, because it was something that I was so passionate about. And it's just kind of been like this snowball effect from there. This little, snowflake that started with my grandfather's evolved into what feels like an avalanche at this point.
Yeah, it's cool. It's funny that you mentioned the age of 3 being kind of the start point. And I was sharing with you earlier off camera that my dad being an artist and doing so much within art that I always knew growing up, I had a desk that was in the family and was moving, flipped it upside down one of the times that I was moving. This was like over a course of years where it was 10 times that I'd moved with that. But I flipped it over, and this little piece of paper fell out. And it was the earliest drawing that I've found that he did, which was age 3 with that. So it's really cool to be able to kind of see that progression of over the years. And I'm sure that, when you look back and you see just kind of that growth over time of what you started at and the mediums with that to now with that. Now, obviously the murals, huge, whether it be here on the building, I know that you've done a lot as far as within gyms and, on other local businesses in other local towns. What was that's a big thing to look at and go like, okay, yeah, we're doing this. What was the first time that you said, I'm going to make this happen?
It was never actually something that I even really considered. I started doing murals in 2015, and I was approached by a photographer in Lebanon, Tina Hilbert, and she was opening a photography studio, and she had asked me, I don't actually remember how she found me to begin with, but she had reached out to me knowing that I was an artist, and she was like, would you want to come paint some large-scale like murals or portraits around my studio? I'm trying to liven it up and, bring like portraits in human form into the studio. And at this point, probably like the largest pieces I had ever done was like 18 by 24, 22 by 28. So I was just upfront with her. I was like, I've never done anything this large before, so I can't really tell you how long it's going to take me, but I would love to do that. And so we had a pretty good working relationship for a few months, and got her studio decked out, and every now and then I would come back and we would like paint over a wall and redo it with a new one. And from there, I didn't really do murals too much. Like I would do the occasional nursery or something of that nature through the years, but I took a significant amount of time off of that and just kind of did small scale art and like commission works, things like that I could do like in my home. And then the ball just kind of got rolling again like last year, and it started rolling really fast. And then all of a sudden I was like, holy crap, I'm buying paint by the gallon at this point. Like, I'm a real artist. So it happened, pretty suddenly, but I'm really thankful for it because like art as a career in this community and in this area, I never thought that would be possible. But here the past, 5 years to a decade, we've seen, like as artists, we've seen a lot of like really tremendous support from a lot of local towns and just people that want to support local artisans. So it's a viable career choice here now, which is really neat.
And there were quite a few of you guys just recently, schedule shifted a little bit because the hurricane came through, but there were quite a few of you guys that just kind of grand opened the alleyway project. Tell me a little bit about that. Share a little bit about that project. It's huge scale. I mean, unbelievably huge scale.
Yeah. So the mural in the alleyway is the biggest artwork that I have ever done in my entire life. I think if I remember the measurements right, it was approximately like 64 feet long, and I think it was like 16 to 18 feet wide. So just the scale of that was an undertaking in itself. But there are 3 other artists that are in that alley. We've got Roddy Addington, who does photography, Caitlin Fields, who did the painting, and then there's Cubby Stanley, who did the graffiti art. So I was the last one in that alley. So a big part of planning was trying to figure out how to mix these colors and to make it aesthetically work with these other artists' work, like to complement them. So that was a big part of like my color mixing in the blues and the greens to kind of reflect those. And with Cubby's, he has a lot of warm tones, which Rivers don't really. So to mix the shades of brown for like the soil and the rocks, I use the same shades of red and yellow in addition to that blue to kind of like get that brown mixed up. So really just kind of like honoring their space and their work within my own was like a big thought of mine during that.
Well, I think it's just amazing as far as to be able to see work like that again, stuff that's going to stick around.
Yeah.
You know, there's still remnants on the sides of buildings here from days gone past.
Yeah.
Where it would be more advertisement, more marketing, but it was art. And you see that some people have restored that. We lived in Lynchburg for a time, and with the art alleyway there, but there's still the Coca-Cola murals and the furniture mural, just all this beautiful artwork that really isn't done. Now it's just cheap, kind of throw up a vinyl banner and hey, you're done.
It is, yeah.
So it's an appreciation for what you're doing that's going to stick around. We've seen, I know when I was growing up that in our high school, Lebanon High School, the murals that were painted along, and just the art classes over the years of adding a little, and it just kind of went through. And you see that, the Russell County Fairgrounds here nearby, same thing, the local high schools being able to share that. When you look back now and you look at that as far as kind of the mindset of, hey, I didn't know that art could be a viable thing to be able to do here. I know that your passion as far as art doesn't just stop at painting, that you have done a lot within dance in the community, that you've helped out with kids in the region that maybe wouldn't be able to experience with tumbling and doing that. You want to share a little bit as far as kind of why that became, that's a whole lot too, to be able to try to mentor kids and go through.
Yeah, like I told you, like traditional art, like drawing and painting is something that I started in when I was really, really young. I was 3. I started dancing when I was 4. So both of these are things that I've been really passionate about for a really, really long time, and that, throughout my life I've kind of ebbed and flowed into both of them. But the really cool part about like visual and performing arts is when you need a break, you can always put it down and you can always come back to it. It's always waiting for you. Like you always still possess those skills and those talents and that passion. But I started out teaching tumbling, first of all, on my own back in 2017. And a local gym owner, Shelly Richards in Coeburn, had reached out to me. She was like, I'm trying to accommodate more kids in the gym while their parents, may be using the facilities. Would you be interested in coaching some tumbling classes here? And I was like, yeah. So it was like a little side gig for me. And I already had a full-time job at that point, and maybe like a part-time job too. Like I've always had, lots of stuff going on. I always had, lots of stuff in the mix. So I only had like one class, and it ranged anywhere from like 5 to 9 kids. And I did that for a couple years. I had coached a little bit previously, never intended to make it like a job, like never intended to make it a whole thing. And the whole premise behind me doing that one class is like I knew that some of the kids otherwise were not going to get to tumble or to dance. They're very expensive sports. Art forms, sports, I think that they're kind of both. But like the cost of lessons and the cost of tuition and costumes and competing and, all of that is very overwhelming for lower income families, which is a lot of what we have around here. And I was one of those low income families. So, I danced and did whatever I could for as long as I could. But at one point I had to stop because my family just couldn't do it anymore. We couldn't afford it. So I did all the free sports and all the free things that I could do, and just wanted to kind of provide that resource for a few kids. And then I kept with that for a couple of years. And then in 2021, I was fired from my job that, I thought that was going to be my field of work for the rest of my life. I loved it. I was a fitness trainer and I was really into it. I really loved it. So when I was let go, I was really like devastated. And At the time, I had 9 students and I think 4 classes. And all of my parents were like, you should do this full time. And I was like, I don't think that's going to work. I was like, I don't think there's enough demand for that, and I just don't think that that's going to be possible. I had seen so many studios and so many gyms and stuff come, and they stay around for a couple years and then they close because people can't afford those sports. So, flash forward to January of 2022, I went from 9 kids to 32 kids. And 4 classes to, I'm wanting to say, like 16 or something like that. And then not even 6 months later, I had classes as often as I could Monday through Thursday, and I didn't have any spots left, and now I still don't. So it's just, it's kind of the same as like the art stuff. It just kind of like exponentially grew very quickly, and it came from the relationships that I had with these families and from my personal experience with the same issues they're facing. Yeah. So that's how we kind of came about. That's like the long-winded explanation.
Well, you mentioned, you said, hey, I wanted to be able to open this up because there's talent that's in the region. Yeah. There's kids that are good at this, but they may never know it, based upon just the barrier to entry of cost,
yeah,
of the expense
absolutely,
with that.
Absolutely. There's so much hidden talent trapped in poverty, and just in my studio, I see so many exponentially talented kids, and I see like people that I grew up with and people that I danced with, I just see it a lot in this area. A lot of really talented, awesome people get overlooked just because that they don't have like the financial monetary aspect of things to get out there and get noticed and get experienced. So I hope that if I can, in like some small way, I can help that to not be a thing.
Yeah, but it gives kids an outlet.
Yeah,
it gives them options to be able to go out. And you were saying this is in these small communities, in these small mountain towns that we grew up in, that a lot of people look at it and it's that you spend the first 18 years going, I'm looking for the exit door, I'm trying to get out, out, and then you realize if you ever do step away of how much there is in the region, how you kind of long for it back. I mean we've lived across the country, and when we came back during COVID, it was just kind of let's go back to where it's a little bit slower pace.
It is.
It's a different sense of community and people that kind of come around you to be able to say, okay, come on back.
Yeah. I kind of experienced that a little differently. Like you said, for 18 years you're like looking for that door out, and that was very much me. Especially like through high school, all I ever wanted to do was leave. There was no opportunity for me here. I knew that given my interests and given the black sheep that I already was, that I was never going to fit in here. I wasn't going to be able to do what I loved here, and that I was going to have to go, which was fine with me because I didn't like it here anyways. So when I graduated college, that's what I did. I left. And then when I came back, I still didn't have an appreciation for the area. I was still I still had a chip on my shoulder for what I feel like my childhood was. I just felt very misunderstood. I felt like I didn't have opportunity, especially given my interests. Like, nobody cared about art. Nobody cared about dance. Nobody cared that there weren't like affordable programs for things that I was interested in, and it was just really hard as a kid interested in all those things just to get by and not to have those resources and not to have that support from everybody that was surrounding you. So at some point I just made the decision that I was going to be that support. If nobody else was going to support those things, I was going to. And one person, one act like that can make a really huge difference, because there are a few like high school teachers and art professors that I had that really like stood out to me and made me feel like, oh, like I still want to do this thing regardless of the support. I have like these guys who are rooting me on, like my 3 pals rooting me on, you know? So if those just like 3 people can make such a difference in me, like, why can't I be one of those 3 people for some of these guys?
Yeah. So I always ask this question in every interview I do to kind of wrap things up. And as we wrap it up, I'm going to get some of the stories behind the murals that I'm going to be sure to share with you guys. Stick around to the end so that way you can see some of these murals and hear some of the stories behind them. But, one of the things I always look at is, how do you want people to look back and remember you? When it comes to community and it comes to, making that difference for maybe one child with that. But what is it that if you were to have somebody look back and say, who's Kandee Phillips, and what do you want to be remembered as?
I always want to be supportive to all of the kids, like regardless of their interests and, regardless of if they dance their whole lives or if they only dance for a couple of years. I want to make their times with me and in my classroom and, learning the things that I like. I want to make those times that they like remember. I want them to remember that fondly, and I hope that, I do make a positive impact on their lives, whether it's just, them being happy in that moment and dancing and having fun, or, if they take these lessons of, learning how their body works and how it functions, their spatial awareness, getting more flexible, learning new skills. Like, I want to give them something that they can take through the rest of their lives with them, because I know that these particular things, art and dance and tumbling and cheerleading, they've all kind of shaped me into the person that I am now, and given me the interest that I have now and the good health. And I just feel really thankful to be able to still do that stuff and to be able to kind of share it and spread it, and maybe like have a few other people that want to stick around and, offer this support and teach these things as well, because, as I age, I know that I'm not going to be able to do this forever. So I hope that somebody out there that I coach decides that they want to keep it going.
Well, you say that, but I know that my little sister growing up, she did ballet from 3 until 18, and now her daughter learns ballet from her same instructor with
awesome.
that. So, Erica Dye, that's over in Abingdon,
Yeah.
That's been one of those things that seeing that progression and go through, and she probably would have said the same thing. Like, I don't imagine I would still be doing it this many years later, but she's still making a difference, still helping impact kids
Yeah.
and go through. It's really neat.
I tell my kids all the time, like, I'll do it until I can't anymore, until my body just won't function. And then, I might coach you from a chair, but
Yeah.
I'll do it for as long as I possibly can. And, just to have those kids that, care about me being there and sticking around. That's what really keeps me going, because there's been a lot of times this year where I've not known if I could continue, if I could just throw my hands up, take a break, and call it a day. And then it seems like every time I have one of those days, I come in and one of these kids says something along the lines of like, I never want to stop taking dance with you, or, gets me all teary.
Yeah. Well, you get to see that impact that you're making. It's not, in what I do as far as with helping people financially and retire and all that, like, you don't get to see that end result until the end, when somebody actually, like, I've got someone that today's their last day of work, which is cool.
Yeah.
Because they're so excited, because they're looking forward to the next 30, 40 years. Like, what are all the things that we're going to be able to do now that they're both retired? But for you, for that child that, they might be 5, 6, 7 years old, and it's that one thing that they say, and that you just go through and you're like, that just made my month.
Yeah, that's really it, though. It's like these little tiny moments that are nestled in all the moments that I get with them that I'm already thankful for anyways. But it's just those times like that, and I'm like, man, like, this kid really loves this too. And like, if the people who were teaching me these things just stopped doing it, where would I have been,
Yeah.
So, just kind of sticking it out, not just for them, but like for me now and for like me when I was their age. So, it just kind of feels like a big full circle moment, because I remember when I was a kid, my family would talk about how all I did was doodle and stand on my head. And
you're like, now I get paid to do it.
Guess what? I'm still doing it, I'm still doodling, still standing on my head.
Yeah, you get paid to do it now, and that's kind of the revenge, right? Well, Kandee, I really appreciate your time to be able to sit down and chat with that. For those that want to follow along, I know you share a lot of your art journey and that go through. Where can people find more of your work?
I'm mostly active on Instagram, so Kandee Wallace Art on Instagram is where you're going to see a majority of things. I'm on Facebook as well, and then my website is attached to both of those social media platforms, but those are my 3 primary ways to be found online. As far as in the community, like, I'm around. I just go where I'm needed. I'll be around.
But I appreciate the time to be able to share. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the different murals here as we kind of wrap things up. But be sure to like, share, subscribe so that you never miss an episode. And we'll see you guys soon down the road. So the murals that are here on the coffee station, right? Like, so you get commissioned that you show up and you've got this huge blank canvas. What was kind of the inspiration behind what you decided to put up?
So Andrea had a very specific vision. She wanted to appeal to tourism in the area, which is kind of the lifeblood of this area at this point, and they're doing a really good job at promoting that. So we wanted to tie the Virginia's for Lovers theme into that. And she kind of talked to me about the idea that she had to put like a very specific coffee mug into the O of the love. And she showed me pictures of this mug and like told me how much it meant to her and asked if I could design something based around that. So we used the font that they have their logo in for the letters with her very specific cup. And we just wanted it to be, kind of like a little selfie spot for people that are kind of drifting through the area and wanted to check stuff out. So we have the blue one was the first one that we did. And then she liked that one a lot, so then we did the pink one. She wanted it to be very visible from the road, so that's why we put that one over there. And then this one by the door so that it can kind of be seen from anybody who comes through.
So you mentioned that you're doing the Piggly Wiggly mural.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, maybe you only remember Piggly Wiggly because you went to the beach and you still see one. But they were huge around here.
Yeah.
And a lot, where the hardware store sits, being the old Piggly Wiggly. But when you show up with that, is it there a certain thing that it's like, hey, here's exactly what I want, or is it, hey, here's the concept, run with it?
Oftentimes clients have a very specific vision for what they're wanting, and a lot of the times what they're seeing is going to work entirely. Like in Steve's case, Steve had a very specific vision and a very specific placement that he wanted it, and he asked me if I could do it, and I said, yeah, like, no problem, we can get that done. But sometimes we run into the issue where, maybe with like spacing or coloration or like something about the graphic design of it may need change to be viewed a little bit, I don't know how to exactly say it. Just to make sure like all the details can be seen properly, I suppose. Yeah. So if I notice, like, most of the time I'll draw up like a mock-up of what we're thinking, especially if it's a very specific original design. he just showed me the Piggly Wiggly logo, and he's like, I want specifically this. I said, okay. I've had other clients that they don't have something like that. They just have a vision in their head, so they kind of like tell me about it. We sketch it up, we draw it up, and if they make specific suggestions, we can kind of take those, or if I don't think that they'll be viewed well, or they're not gonna like contrast, or may make the like placement weird, I'll kind of like offer that advice to the client and see like where we may be able to adjust this, or, you know, if they specifically want that, then we just go with it. But that's the thing, especially about like doing commission work. It's not about what you want and about what you think is, you know, going to be best. It's ultimately, what does the client want? What vision are they going for? What color schemes do they want? You can make suggestions, like just artistic, helpful suggestions, but they don't have to take those.
Yeah. So when you show up and you're looking at something like the alleyway, where you've got a little bit more kind of freedom, inspiration that you're pulling from the area, you know, that's huge. I mean, you were working on your little, you know, travel dolly, going around, getting everything. So not only was it just kind of the base of getting everything started, then it was going back through with more intricate details and filling in and all of that. How many hours did that project take?
I didn't specifically keep up with the exact hours, but I went back and did an estimation, and I think that I came up, it was like over 250 hours that I had come up with. So of course, I'm probably missing hours in there somewhere, but that one took a lot of planning, and people may not realize it, but a lot of the time that you put into mural work isn't necessarily on site. A lot of the work that I did was doing like studies and practices at home, just to get like different details and textures, or to see the style that I wanted to do. And then I spent a lot of time taking reference images around the Clinch River. So like just going around and taking pictures of different flowers, different rocks, like different things like that. It's a lot of planning that goes into it. And then once I had all my reference images, we had to paint, you know, then I got to come and pressure wash everything and leaf blow every time I came in and needed to put down big swaths of color. So anytime that I plan to do something, I'm like, oh, this will take this amount of time, and then I double it. And usually it's closer to the double.
Yeah. That's the way that I calculate time of traveling with kids. Whatever the GPS says, if it says 5 hours, it's really 10.
10, yeah.
So
Yep.
It's the same math.
Who knew? Ours a lot like traveling with kids.
Yeah, it's the same math. Well, you know, you most recently completed the first part of a project at Be My Honeybee over in Lebanon with that. You know, with that you show up now. There's giant bumblebees on the side of the side of the building. With that, and I know that, you know, kind of the mindset of when you're looking at that, and maybe it's going to be some stage work where it's kind of, you know, part one, part two, that's going to fill in with that. You know, how do you scale that? How do you make it look to where it's immediately recognizable, but then still leave yourself canvas for the next time?
So Kim and I worked to kind of make the design for this one, and this one is going to be something that continues to grow. So that mock-up is extremely helpful in this case, especially. I can go into these mock-ups because I draw them up with specific dimensions based off of the building, and so I can go in and take like specific sections out of this, and still, when we come back later to add the rest, it's still going to be in proportion and going to be able to be easily added to and still like make sense. So that one will continue to grow over the coming months, but we're excited for that one. Once the full thing is up, I think it's going to be really, really cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's instantly recognizable, right? With your work, that you can, when you see that, it's not like, oh, I just kind of, if you say it's the building with bumblebees on the side, Like you instantly know where you're going with that. So it's drawing attention there to the corner. It's immediately recognizable, and it's something that's going to last a long time with that.
Yeah, and that's what Kim was going for. She had told me, she was like, hey, people don't know where my shop is. I'm right here on Main Street. I'm beside the courthouse. There's lots of traffic. I just don't get it. How can we get noticed? And I was like, let's make it vibrant. Like, right now your building blends into all the other buildings around. And so she and I talked about how much we love public art and how it draws our attention. And that's a big reason why, you know, we travel to some of these towns, is just to see the public art. So she wanted to be that. So I was like, let's do it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, thanks for sharing some of the stories and some bonus content here at the end as far as behind the murals to be able to enjoy. And you know, hopefully people get out and get to see some of your work and enjoy that and support local businesses like the Coffee Station. Thanks so much for them being able to host us and go through. And you know, happy to hear that they've been busy this morning.
Yeah,
as lots of people come through the drive-thru. Everybody needed their caffeine with that. So thanks again for your time.
Yeah, thank
and we'll
you so much.
we'll see some of more of your work around town.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.